Hello. Today I want to talk very briefly on the topic of animal symbolism. Now, as you may know, I talk a lot about plants and I have quite a focus on plants. It's definitely a topic of a lot of interest for me. But of course, I do love the animal kingdom to the extent where, as some of you are aware, I don't even eat animals and their byproducts. So, yeah, and the point of me sharing this information today is, I guess, to help people that maybe if you're feeling a little bit down, maybe you've been experiencing some mental health or emotional health issues of late, this is just a nice little reminder to connect in with the animals around you. And yeah, like we live in a world in which obviously there's still a lot of people that will have a philosophy that they look to, like maybe like a particular religion. There's some that I guess maybe might sit more within a category of like the spiritualism or whatever you want to call that. But there's also a larger group of people that don't really have a philosophy that of any of that kind, and I guess, not that I want to put people in boxes, but those that maybe sit a little bit more in that sort of atheistic or agnostic sort of mindset and belief system. And even if not within that, animals can be a great way to remind us that we are still supported in many ways. And one of those ways is in the ways in which animals can show up in your life. Now, it doesn't have to be like, oh my God, I'm going to go out and obtain a pet. I have my own beliefs around humans containing pets, but that's not the purpose of this video. But that is obviously can be a really big thing and a really big animal influence in someone's life, but doesn't mean that that's something that you have to do to connect in with the animals and to connect in with animal symbolism. And I'm also aware that some people are afraid of animals and some people are afraid of some animals. And just to remind you again that a lot of the times the intention of animals is not actually to frighten or to harm the human. Yes, that can be some animals' intention, but it's not usually what most animals intend for when they come into the presence of a human. As some of you are aware, a lot of animals are actually quite frightened of us. So, yes. So, yeah, like I was saying before, there's many philosophies and religions, that people use. And with that, and plus different cultures around the world, they will have their own associations with different animals and their own meanings. A buffalo in one culture could mean potentially something different in another culture. Even within the same culture, we could say Australia, actually, the great land of Amaroo, is an example of how there's 500 nations residing on supposedly one piece of land, and how they interpret an animal could be quite different among the 500 nations. So even though we might classify that as, one culture, there are still variations within the culture. So yeah, I don't want to tell you like, oh, when you see a cat, this is what the cat means, because again, that'll be my own interpretation with my own ancestral lines and my own life connections outside of this physical life right now. So anyway, I just want to remind you and how the animals obviously can play a really big part in our existence. Like many animals are very interrelated and very much living in a state of reciprocity with their environment. They are very helpful for many environments. They all have their own intention and purpose. And obviously when the human comes in and changes that environment, it can obviously throw things out of balance, like by trying to plant certain plants or introducing certain animal species. So I don't want to go into that. That's not really the purpose of this vlog, but I just really wanted to assist with like celebrating and recognizing the beauty of all the animals that we have here on this planet. And so even if you live in a city, you know, every time that you see a bug, or maybe you even see a bird, every time you see an animal, and especially in a moment where maybe you're not feeling maybe as joyful as maybe what you'd like to be, or you're feeling a little down, you know, what can you associate with that animal? You don't have to associate something with an animal. Like, animals are not necessarily there just for the purpose of like trying to bring up the human, obviously not, but that is also some of the reason as to maybe why a particular person attracts a particular bird or another sort of animal. And you may notice that with certain friends and certain family members, that certain animals will gravitate towards them, and maybe different animals will gravitate towards another. You know, there's a symbol and there's a meaning that can be associated with that if one chooses to, if one is in need of that medicine. You know, can the animals around you be seen in a way that expands your experience here on the earth? You know, it can be a tool to help you connect with yourself as well. You know, I know some people share stories about when they have a loved one that passes over, and there was a particular animal that loved one had a great association with, and so every time that they see that animal themselves now, it then reminds them of that loved one, and it, you know, can make them feel like, oh, granddad is here, you know. Or whether you want to put some kind of scientific application on that, you're welcome to, but sometimes it's not necessary. You can just let the person have their moment with that. And I guess I want to finish off by asking, like, what animals do you see and what sort of associations do you have when you see those animals? You're more than welcome to leave that in the comment section down below, and I will see you in the next vlog.